Everyone, this is Slick King Gamer. Yeah, like, as I said, I basically, what I tried to do, what I said in my Feeling Pinky King review, I just want to get this out of the way now so I won't have to worry about it later. So, this is Rarity Takes Manehatten. Funny. So our episode begins at the train station as Rarity and the others are about to head off.
You're back. Actually, Spike, I've got one last pile of bags over there. Won't you be a dear? Sure. I'll be a dear.
Why did I get the feeling that Spike was a little hesitant in his voice there?
An entire week in the fabulous city of Manehatten.
So yeah, so apparently Rarity is taking all of her friends to Manehatten to prepare herself for Fashion Week.
Fashion Week, Rarity? Not that you'll need it. We're sure you'll win. I can't begin to tell you how excited I am that you'll all be there with me. However, perhaps...
But Rarity also bought her tickets to shows on...
No, it's our ticket. You know, where I pick a card and remember what it is, and then you put it back in the deck. You can't look at it in these. Tickets to the hottest musical on Broadway. You couldn't mean Henny of the Hills, because that show's been sold out for months. Or could you? I could. Oh, Rarity, you didn't have to do that, but since you did, yeah!
So, basically, as you can probably tell from the title, basically Manehatten is pretty much the MLP interpretation of Manhattan and New York City, pretty much. And given from somebody who's pretty much lived in New York, or since his entire life, this is going to be one enjoyable episode. So after the opening title screen, the trains arrive in the Manehatten, and I gotta say...
I found us a place to stay only a block from the train station in the very heart of this glorious metropolis.
And I gotta say...
Hey, look! There's the theater where Henny of the Hills is playing.
On Broadway, or rather Broadway. So yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm already enjoying how much interpretation of Manhattan they got right to represent New York.
Wow, Rarity, how'd you manage to get seats for tomorrow night? Well, I gave some designs to the costume designer, so he pulled a few strings.
Sorry.
That is what makes Manhattan so splendid and amazing. You do something nice for some person, and then you never know when they'll do something nice for you.
If only if that were true in the real world.
So then you can do something nice for us. Like get us in to see Henny of the Hills.
Maybe it's just me, but I'm trying to figure out what Broadway show Henny of the Hills is supposed to represent. I'm not much of a Broadway person, unlike my sister, who knows a lot about Broadway, so I don't know.
Which is only the best musical in all of Equestria. It must be good if Rainbow Dash is impressed. Normally she doesn't even like musicals.
Oh, I love this following sentence.
I know. Always just bursting into song in random places at the drop of a hat. Who does that? Oh,
I just love Rainbow's reaction of what she just said. I mean, after all, that's basically how I see it whenever there's a random musical number being played whenever I see a movie. And just like that, we were introduced to the song Generosity, which is generally liked, except by a certain somebody who I mentioned at the end of the last review. Okay, so yeah, serious talk. You know the voice of reason, the guy who I mentioned at the end of my Bats review, which was just, yesterday? Well, he said it's a bad song because it's absolute padding. I don't see the issue. Really. I just don't. You see it? I clearly disagree with the voice of reason. Not only is the song catchy, but it does a good job showing off the visuals of more New York sights bona fide. The beat is upbeat and... Okay, it's not padding for the episode. And I'm going to get to that later. Seriously, I don't have a problem with the song, unlike the voice of reason who says it's a waste of time. And after the song ends, Rarity has to basically rush.
Is there anything left to do we can help you with? Nothing I can think of. The dresses are all completely finished, all made from a fabulous new fabric I've been developing for months. Stretchy, but not clingy. Shivery, but not showy. Sounds amazing.
Sorry.
Nothing left for me to do
Still trying to get up.
with my dresses by 2 this afternoon. Well, that's funny, because that clock over there makes it seem like that's only 10 minutes from now.
Irony. Yeah. Basically, that's the thing that the voice of reason complained about this episode was the pacing. Seriously, bad pacing equals a bad episode. Okay, yeah, I will admit the song did extend the episode and give it only like 10 minutes. Yeah, that was kind of cheap, but other than that, the pacing is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I love it when Rarity gets over dramatic. And I really like the following scene that it pretty much basically represents New York rush hour traffic. Seriously, not even Princess Twilight Sparkle, mind you, can actually convince these Tonys. Because basically, that's pretty much how New York is. Considering how I've been there a lot, I understand how it is. Everybody rushing to get on time, trying to catch the train or the subway to be somewhere. It's a pretty good interpretation. So eventually the pony they helped out during the song is able to give her a ride, but they end up forgetting something.
Anybody else got a sneaking suspicion we were forgetting something?
Oh, the admiral of irony! So Rarity quickly manages to check in just in time.
Right here, man. Your friends told me you need these in a hurry, so I offered to race them over myself. Anything for that nice mare, I told them.
I made it! And with seconds to spare. Hello, every pony. Pleased to meet you.
Oh boy.
Rarity, I presume. You must be Prim Hemline.
Prim Hemline? That's what we're named. So along the way, we come across basically our rival of the season, Surrey Pamel.
I'm so glad you made it, Rarity. Me too. But everything just seems to keep working out. Don't you remember me? Surrey Polo Mare from the Ponyville.
A lot of people pronounce this Pamel, but it's Polomel. Nah, screw it. I'm calling you Surrey. So, yeah. So basically how you know, like, Trixie is a rival for Twilight and Lightning Dust is a rival to Rainbow Dash? Well, take a wild guess. Siri is a rival for Rarity.
Knitters League? Oh, yes, of course. I thought you looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. You haven't been back in years. Because I moved here to make it in the big city. Okay. Oh, good for you, sir. It's so good to see you.
As you can probably tell from my facial expressions, I'm not going to put this too lightly, and I'm going to be honest here, I'm not going to break anybody's heart when I say this, but first things first, I'm going to play the Talk of Flames Top 25 No More Heroes bosses in the New Destroy Man section. And since I mentioned New Destroy Man and the Talk of Flames video, you probably know where I'm going with this. So, you already know where I'm going with this.
I hate the...
Yeah. I hate Surrey Pamel. A lot. A lot. Okay. Let me put it to you this way. it's not basically like with characters like, say, Hades from Kid Icarus Uprising, where you just love to hate him. No, like, I really do hate Suri. Like, I really do. She is literally one of the worst characters ever made.
And now here we are, competing. Okay.
Yes. Well, good luck.
Oh, I don't need luck. Would you like a help with your things?
Why, thank you.
Basically, she is a manipulative backstabber.
Oh, bravo! I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. I really do hate Suri, because basically what happened from the stuff I skipped, Suri backstabs Rarity and takes her designs and tries to create it as her own, only to make it look like that Rarity's the one being the plagiarist. Yeah, what a bitch. And given somebody who's actually been watching Project Runway with my mom, and there are a lot of designers on that show that I really don't think deserve to even be on the show, as well even make it as far as the Final Four, and I really hate them with a burning passion. Suri represents every single designer I hate on that show, get everything I hate about them, and put them into one character. That's how much of a character, how much I hate Suri. Also thanks to her assistant Coco Famel, which I'll get to later.
Coco Pomel here took practically forever. Nearly got me completely disqualified.
Well, I wanted to make sure you'd win, so I took the extra time to...
Quiet! I pay an assistant to sew and get copy, not talk.
Screw you! So yeah, I really do hate Suri with a burning passion. Much like how Fossil's Minion says about Team Flare and X and Y, I really do hate Suri. Okay, she's not a good rival, she's incompetent, she's pretty much the equivalent of an alpha bitch, and I hate her with every inch of my fiber, and I really hope that karma bites her back in the ass.
Okay.
How could this happen?
Oh, sweetie, don't blame yourself. It takes some small-town fillies a while to learn it's every pony for herself in a big city, okay?
Oh, screw you! You douchebag. I was right, she really is an alpha bitch. Things don't get much better when Rarity comes in and explains the situation to her friend.
Is everything okay? You got the breakfast that Ella brought you and everything, right? He said he brought some. And then Suri stole them. I let one of the other contestants use some of my one-of-a-kind fabric, and then she turned it into a wardrobe just like mine. Only now it looks like I'm the one copying her. My generosity has ruined me, I tell you. Ruined.
And, you know, nothing more relaxed from, you know, the alpha bitch. You know which one I'm talking about. The scene is pretty funny, at the same time really depressing. I mean, just the way how Rarity overreacts to the situation is pretty hilarious, but it's really depressing to see her like this. Which makes me all the more angry and all the more hopeful that karma comes back to bite Suri in the ass.
Now, Rarity, whatever we're...
And when her friends try to help her, basically Rarity turns them into slaves. I guess maybe they still owe her for what happened in Suited for Success. All the way back in Season 1. So it took Rarity 59 episodes to pretty much get her revenge. But even her friends begin to realize how much...
watching any of the hills by then. Oh, I see. I go out of my way to get you tickets for a show, and this is how you repay me? By abandoning me in my hour of need. Fine. Go and see any of the hills tonight. And then tomorrow morning, when you come to see my fashion show with Editor's Fashion to Show, you can have more entertainment. Oh, but look, there's our friend Rarity going down in flames. It's friendship magic.
She said. And why did I get the... Oh, wait. This entire scene is parallel of how I feel with some of my friends. Mostly because some of them are pretty much equivalent of dicks.
Rarity, calm down. What's gotten into you? What's gotten into you? Oh, go ahead. See your little show. Congratulations, Billy! Sounds like you've all figured out already it's every pony for herself in this town!
Wow. So they do eventually get the dress together.
That's the last of them.
But then Rarity runs out.
You're welcome!
Okay, I'm basically gonna pull something up, because basically what happens with Surrey, it's one of the most infuriating things I have ever seen, and I've never done this before, especially to a character like this, but of how much of an unlikable bitch Surrey is, I think that she deserves it because of how much I hate her so much. But I'll get to that soon.
Let's have another round of applause for Surrey Photo Man's amazing collection.
Amazing? I call plagiarism. Okay, seriously, amazing my ass. Considering what we've already saw earlier, it doesn't make me hate her any more than I do.
That's fabric. So original.
Yeah. Again, the Project Runway judges would like to have a word with her. You gotta be like to wear candy corn teeth to wear that.
Well, look who's here. You gonna show off your copycat collection?
That's it! I wish.
And now, Rarity from Ponyville with her brand new line. And
So, just when it thinks that Rarity shows off her fashion, thinks it's crap, it's actually avant-garde, and people are rather impressed.
They're liking it. I think I may have just won this thing. Oh, I can't wait to celebrate.
However, she begins to realize that her friends really did go see the Henny in the Hills, and then she realizes that she went too far.
Rarity, they all adore you.
And then we get this. I think you already know what it is by now, but when this episode first came out, I'm basically wondering what just happened. And I think we already know what it is since season 4 is already over by now, but again, when this episode first came out, I'm basically wondering what was that?
I have to go.
And Rarity basically goes to try.
And I repaid them with unkindness.
But when Rarity returns to the hotel, she realizes that she went too far. And then we get the depressing generosity.
Manehatten, what have I done? The thought is bad for me. But I went way too far. My friends gave me.
So Rarity heads back to the train station home to try to get.
And now alone I stand. And now alone I stand. I need a moment with Prim Hemline. I have to rush back to Ponyville, but I just wanted to thank her first for...
You best steer clear of Prim for a while.
Screw you!
It's pretty furious.
Look who's talking. Besides, I'm not the one who pretty much stole the design out of the competition. Again, I'm gonna have to reiterate myself with the scene I played earlier, but you know where I'm going with this, right?
Isn't that right?
Yes.
But it turns out that Twilight and the others actually stayed.
I can't believe it. I thought you went back home. We missed the show because we overslept. Surrey told us you lost. We're really sorry.
Yeah, I don't believe a word of what she said, and it really makes me want to take a shotgun to bullet shit-eating grin off her face. people like her that this world can do without.
I lost.
But it turns out Rarity doesn't care that she's lost.
I'm just happy.
She's happy to be with her friend.
Treated you, taking advantage of your friendship the way I did. How could you ever see past it?
Yeah, you were pretty rotten.
AJ?
Wow, Applejack. I know your thing is honesty, but come on.
I agree, Rainbow. That was a little harsh.
Last night we may not have seen you at your best, but we know you, and we would never let one thing like that change how we feel about you. Oh, thank you. You really are the most wonderful friends a pony could have. No, I already arranged to make it up to you this
So Rarity manages to rearrange it by actually showing them a private showing of...
Penny of the Hills.
And that is how it's done. Pretty clever how I convinced her to stay away from Prim, wasn't it?
That's it! I feel much better now. The hell? So they go to see Henny of the Hills, and of course they're really impressed. But how exactly did Rarity get them?
Wow, that was even better than I imagined. I loved it. I mean, it was aight.
Considering how in an earlier scene it just said it was a really impressive show, but whatever.
How did you ever get them to agree to do an extra performance just for us? Remember my costume designer friend who got me the tickets? Well, I offered to make all the costumes for his next show. Here in Manhattan? Look,
However, Coco Pamel comes in and we find out what really
We're
happened.
happy for you, Rarity.
This is the first place trophy for Fashion Week. With my name on it. But I thought I lost. You didn't. You won. Suri was hoping that if you didn't claim your prize, the judges would consider it a forfeit and first place would go to her.
And that's how much I hate this character at this point.
So, she lied to make you and your friends go away and, well, I lied too.
Yeah. So again, Suri Pamel is officially the most unlikable character on this show. Guess what, Spike? Because of what you did in Power Ponies, you are no longer my most hated character. So that means I got more characters on my hit list to go after now. Seriously. This so poor excuse of a rival, Suri, is worse than Eric Cartman at Trey Parker and Matt Stone at their worst, worse than Brian Griffin at Seth MacFarlane's worst, and yes, even worse than Scrappy Doo.
I've worked for Suri for so long, I started to believe that it really is every pony for herself in this town.
Or maybe you've been working for her because you didn't realize how much of an alpha bitch she was.
Until I saw how generous you were with your friends, and how generous they were with you. It made me start believing there was something better for me out there. So I quit.
Well, at least Karma did bite her back in the ass, so I'll give her this episode that.
I brought you something to say thank you.
So Coco pretty much gives its Rarity.
Well, you'll need a job now that you're no longer with Suri.
Now, this is another one of those things that kind of bugs me about the episode. Is Coco Pamel, don't get me wrong, she's not cute, and it was not bad of a development for her, but the entire episode, I get the whole point of it, what Coco was, and I understand the whole idea behind her, but I just kind of felt like that Coco was, like, just there. Like, Nothing too big, nothing too spectacular, but nothing too horrible. She was just there.
How would you like to work for my friend making all the costumes for his next show?
And now for our moral of the episode.
Manehatten was simply grand. It was within this magnificent metropolis that I learned that while there are ponies who will take advantage of your generosity, you should never, ever let that cause you to abandon your generous spirit. Nothing feels worse than taking advantage of the giving nature of your friends.
Yeah. So, I gotta admit, this is another one of those morals that I can really identify with, and it's something that really hits me home, and it's something that I think a lot of people need to give more credit to. This is pretty much all I can say, considering how I can pretty much be generous, and there are a lot of people in my school that basically try to use me as either a punching bag or as an excuse. Who's to walk all over me. Yeah. So, this is another one of those morals that really hits me home. And then by the end, Rarity opens up the gift that she got from Coco, and we get a little bit of foreshadowing from earlier. And that was Rarity Takes Manehatten. Seriously, voice of reason, this is not an overrated episode. I can pretty much make the same argument for Magic Duel. And it's not a bad episode. I'm really sorry, but everything about the Voice of Reason's review of this episode made little to no sense whatsoever. There was little I can find wrong with this episode. I can pretty much relate with Rarity's situation of what's going on right now. What else can I bring up? The songs are catchy and upbeat like there always are. Alright. While the pacing is kind of noticeable, it was still a decent amount of pacing, and it was fine. Nothing wrong with it. Of course, the designs are great, like they always are, from what Rarity shows off, and it basically shows a lot of character development and puts Rarity's generosity to the test. And the reveal key for what's coming up and later in the season is actually pretty good for her. So, I don't really see the Voice of Reason's issue with this episode. If you don't like Rarity Takes Manehatten, that's fine, but come up with some excuse, Voice of Reason. You could do better than that. Because I honestly think this is a good episode, whether you like it or not. Again, some of the things that do bog this episode down for me is basically Sari being the worst rival ever to come out of this show, as well being the most unlikable character in the history of ever. And Coco Purnell was just there. Not the worst character, but you get my point. But aside from that, this is still a good episode, and I think a lot of people need to give it more credit than it deserves. So, I think Rarity Takes Manehatten gets it's an A-. With its great interpretation of New York and Manhattan, plus with all the great character development for Rarity, as well as putting her element to the test, and with all the great songs, combined with huge scenery and wonderful animation, this is an episode I think people seriously need to reconsider. So again, Rarity Takes Manehatten gets an A-. Flick Can Gamer, I'll see you guys next time in Pinky Apple Pie.